Hey everybody, welcome back to Battle Tested Business. I'm your host Jay Lee, and today I have a special guest. One that's really gonna help probably a lot of you if you take him up on what he does. So welcome to the show, Nick Devlin.
Yeah, thanks Jay, happy to be here, man.
Hey man, it's good to have you, brother. So what Nick does is he's a personal coach. So what he does is he helps people overcome the false ceiling that they've placed in their life to get to where they need to be, whether it be business, whether it be personal, emotional, mental toughness, whatever it is. He'll help you get through those roadblocks within your brain. And I thought it was really essential that we have him on so we can get out there how he started, how he put together his business, and how he's thriving now. So Nick.
Yeah, man.
Military, what branch?
Yeah, Army.
Army.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Where were you stationed?
Savannah, Georgia. So I was with
Georgia.
75th Ranger Regiment.
Okay.
1st Battalion.
Okay. Did you get your Ranger tab?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What was that like?
Oh man, that's a whole episode right there. That was just an exercise in mental and physical toughness. Yeah, it was just showing up every day and staying committed to the goal that I had in mind for myself. And when I went to Ranger school, being in Ranger Regiment, that meant that that was part of the job. Like, so you had to go get your tab within 2 years, and if you didn't, you had to leave regiment.
Wow.
So it was,
okay.
So it was a pretty important requirement. And but I just always knew that I was going to get it. That was my mentality.
Okay. It's interesting that you were in Ranger Regiment because my son, my oldest, he's 24.
Yeah.
And he is going into what's called the buddy program.
Yeah.
Where you sign up with a friend and you go through boot camp and then what's it called? Something infantry training course.
Advanced infantry training.
AIT.
Yep.
And then on to Ranger Battalion.
Yeah.
Ranger Regiment.
Yeah.
So his goal is to become a Ranger and then go Green Beret.
Yeah.
And then hopefully get into the unit.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I was like, why you gotta try and show me up, dude? Like, what are you doing? I taught you how to clear rooms at 9 years old.
Yeah,
like,
why might have had an influence.
Dude, it's funny, my 7-year-old's the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, he walks around with, it's a copy of, a tactical helmet.
Yeah.
It has the nods hook up on it and everything.
Yeah.
And he wears this foam multicam plate. Right, for Nerf guns.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And he's got guns stuck in every pocket on his waistband. He wears a little ski mask thing and goes through the house. And,
oh man.
And I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
There's 2 of them in.
Yeah.
I already know. Yeah. I already know, man. So for the listeners that don't know, and because of the different branches, I've met Rangers, but I really didn't know what the difference was between being a Ranger, being SF, and being regular infantry. Yeah. So can you go into what the difference is a little bit? Yeah.
So it really comes down to a lifestyle, right, and kind of a personality or culture, right? Mm-hmm. So each one of those that you mentioned has a different culture, just like every branch has a different culture, there's some confusion that comes out of a few different factors. One is that Ranger School itself is just a school, right? So anybody across any branch, and even international military forces, can go to Ranger School. You can apply, go to Ranger School, get your Ranger tab, and then you're Ranger qualified, right? That's different than being a Ranger in regiment, because that's what's called a scrolled Ranger, right? And that's just your unit, patch is a Ranger scroll. And so when you're a tabbed Ranger, you've got, a Ranger scroll and a Ranger tab. And again, the tab is like required to stay in regiment, so it's a big part of the culture. But it is ultimately just a school, right? So a lot of people will go through the school and they'll say, hey, I'm a Ranger. And, technically they're correct, but that means something different to someone who's in Ranger Regiment, right?
Okay.
Who says like, this is my identity, right? This is my whole career. And to get that scroll is a whole other, bucket of goodies that you got to go through, to earn that scroll. So there's some points of contention, some confusion there. But Ranger lifestyle is Well, it comes out of the task of a ranger, right? And rangers are really door kickers. We're a raid force. We operate at night in some of the most demanding combat conditions. We're often one of the first elements that goes in, and we show up with every toy, every advantage. We've got assets in the sky. We've got heavy equipment, heavy machine guns, and we just overwhelm any target that we have, right? We're never showing up for a fair fight. So, at least a 3-to-1 advantage, and we typically win our fights, right? Because we go in just with such overwhelming power. So that translates to kind of the attitude, right? Mm-hmm. We're always told we're the best, and I think that's true of like every branch, especially in special operations. But we really start to embody that, that mentality, so it's a vibe, in Ranger Regiment, right? You got a bunch of like really, really athletic, really sharp. There's a lot of really smart Rangers. We'll get into the difference between a strong Ranger and a smart Ranger maybe at some point, but but there's definitely an attitude of excellence. And that's really cool. I mean, that's one of the things that I loved about being in a regiment, was being around such a high performance culture, right? Where just people are always pushing themselves to their own personal edge in terms of physical fitness, knowledge about their job. And collectively, there's a culture of performance, right? Of team cohesion, team performance, and stuff like that. So a lot of that stuff has informed what I'm doing now. But yeah, ultimately, it's a high-paced, high-pressure, high expectation kind of gig, and most of us that are there love it. We thrive off that. So then when you get into like SF, and again, sometimes it's just like a language thing that confuses people. Just like there's a Ranger school and there's a Ranger unit, mm-hmm. That's confusing. There's special forces and there's special operations. Mm-hmm. So special operations kind of is like the umbrella for a lot of these different elite units.
It's funny that you say that, because when I was deployed to Africa, I was in a joint unit. We had Army Force Pro.
Yeah.
We had MARSOC.
Yeah.
We had SEALs.
Yeah. And
we had Army SF, and I think some of them were in the unit. I don't know.
Yeah, probably mingled in there.
They look different.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one of the SF guys, the tabs he had, it was, I believe, this is the order, I cannot remember to save my life, but on the top, I think it was Special Operations Forces, Special Operations Forces, then Special Forces, and then Ranger.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I was like, how special do you get, dude? Like, just have one.
Yeah.
Have the top one and the rest fall underneath. But it was just, ribbon out tab after tab after tab.
Yeah.
So I was just like, all right, man. He was a cool cat. He was quiet, calm dude.
Yeah.
He was always in the talk and then in the tick with me.
Yeah.
So, we were relaying intelligence and, operations, and then the ops chief would put things out. Because it was a joint unit. So we had a bunch of different guys in there.
Yeah.
We had Air Force PJs, TAC Ps, everything, and it was just seeing how everybody worked differently.
Yeah.
Was kind of crazy, man. Like it was just like, why are you doing it like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, especially the Air Force, dude. They trip me out.
Yeah.
At award ceremonies, have you seen how they do their award ceremonies?
No.
Man, so. In the Army, well, I don't know in the Navy, but in the Army, do they do this? Do your CO walk down the line, hand their certificate, shake hand, take a picture, salute, and then go to the next guy?
Yep.
Air Force don't do that.
Okay.
They slide sideways to the podium.
Oh.
And they bob. So, because they're spreading their legs and they're sliding over and they bob down the line. And I was like, the rest of us, because I was with a bunch of Marines, and for those first time watching, I'm not a Marine, I was in the Navy. And we all looked at each other like, what the hell is this? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And the Air Force guy was like, "What? You don't want your picture taken with the flag?" I was like, "That's your reason?"
Wow.
So different, man.
Wow.
So different.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But anyway, man, back to, so SF is like a different school.
Yeah, so SF is a different unit, and and they have their SFAS, selection, which is a school as well. So, but yeah, that's a different mentality. So SF tends to operate with like maybe one or two special forces guys, and then they go and they embed with like indigenous forces, and so they're leading, platoon size elements.
They're doing a lot of UCW stuff then. Unconventional warfare.
Oh yeah, 100%, exactly. So like that's more like special forces. When you hear that, that's unconventional stuff.
That's what MARSOC does with Marines.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yeah, and there's some elements of Ranger that do that as well, but yeah, by and large, like SF is unconventional, and then Ranger is like take by force. So it leads to. It leads to a different culture, a different approach. Like when you said that guy was pretty quiet, subdued, like that's probably more of a special forces trait. Ranger tends to be pretty noticeable. Yeah,
I heard a lot of hooahs from the Rangers.
Yeah, and that's of course, it's not across the board. It's not always the case, but special forces got a different mission set, different mentality, different skills, and each one is cool and unique, but.
They all have a job to do.
Yeah, they got a job to do.
Right, so there's different units for different jobs.
Right.
Got it. So your experience as a Ranger.
Yeah.
How did that influence you to get out of the Army?
Yeah.
And then start a business?
Yeah. So, getting into the military, I knew I was going to be a Ranger. Like it was a long path to get to my unit, and there's no guarantees, but I had such a firm like mental commitment, and this is leading to what I'm doing now. It was just such a strong belief that was my identity, right? And so that what I've learned over the years is that's how we create the next version of us, right? Is to really like have that deep sense of belief and just know that's the path, and then practice the things to become that person. And when I got in, I was like. Felt completely on mission. I felt so aligned with what I was doing, and then over time that kind of started to shift. I was in for 4 years, 17 weeks, and I started to realize that maybe I wasn't the liberator that I signed up to be. I had a very, very idealistic view of what I was doing. And after years of doing it and realizing, okay, maybe it's not really as pure intention as I thought. And, I'm not as much of a warrior for freedom, that I started to question what I was doing, and then also just the realities of combat. I was losing a lot of friends. It's a lot of stress, right? And so after losing enough buddies in combat and realizing that maybe it wasn't exactly what I signed up for, and then just also the reality of just being a soldier, of you don't really, your life is not your own, and especially we had a really rapid rotation schedule, so it was like. And
the food isn't good.
Yeah, and the food's not great. Yeah. I was in the best shape of my life. Don't get me wrong. That was a bonus. And again, I loved a lot of things about it. The brotherhood, the focus on excellence, and also like what red-blooded American boy doesn't want to run around in the desert with machine guns, it was a dream come true. So, but after a while, it didn't feel that way, and I was getting tired of not having as many options for my life and as much freedom in my own personal life. Like when can I take vacation, right? Oh, well, it's these dates, that kind of thing. It's just after a while, it starts to wear on you. And I'd gotten married while I was in, and now we were pregnant with our first child. And so I just started to weigh, my different options, and it was still a hard decision to get out, but that was ultimately the decision I made, just so that I could live my life on my terms.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So what lessons did the Rangers teach you?
Yeah.
That helped you start your business?
Yeah, I mean, a number of things, right? The first one that I keep talking about is like having a vision for your life, right? So I had a very clear vision. I want to become Ranger, right? So that's really important, and I think that's missed a lot of times. People say, oh, you just, okay, start taking action. Well, it's like, well, back up, like, what's your dream? What's your vision for, for yourself and for your life? That's super important. And that was something that I learned really powerfully there. And then taking action, right? And sticking with it, like having this mindset of, I'm not going to fail. Right, and even if I do, I'm going to get up and I'm going to get back after it. Mm-hmm. Right, I really went straight through to get to my unit, but then once I got to Ranger School, I failed. Right, I failed Mountains phase, which for anyone who's familiar with Ranger School, it's like one of the worst phases to fail because it's cold and you're starving and you're halfway through. Right,
so you got to do it again.
You got to do it again, and luckily I had that opportunity. Some guys who don't come from regiment might not get an opportunity to try again, to recycle, but I did, and it was one of the lowest points of my training career. Right? I was just depressed, and knowing that, okay, I just went through weeks of suck, and now I'm going to have about a week to recover, and I get to go back and do it again.
Do you start at the beginning, or do you just start at the phase?
I started at the beginning of that phase.
Oh, that phase, okay.
Yeah, so I'd made it through the first phase. Actually, there's also a pre-Ranger phase for Rangers because they want to get you ready. So, but getting you ready means, like abusing you. You're like suffering for an additional month before school even starts. But I had to redo that phase, and but then I made it through, right? So the lesson there was like, even when you fail, right? Just take a deep breath, gather yourself, and keep pushing. And, it's even in life, like failure it's never the end. It's never really failure.
No, it's not.
And
that's one of the things you'd be coaching, right?
Yeah, this is one of the things I coach, and one of the things that I've learned, 100 times over in different experiences, even after Ranger School. But there really is no failure, right? There's just lessons learned and adjustments that you can make, and then recommitting. Mm-hmm. And I get this all the time with my business. I'll get challenged by life or by conditions that are like, you still want to do this? You really want to do it?
Yeah.
And it's like every time, I'm like, yeah, I do. And as soon as I make that commitment again, it's like, okay, boom, right? Whatever that next thing opens up. So yeah, having a vision, taking action, being okay with failure, the power of being in a high performance community, right? Having people around you that support you, celebrate you, challenge you. Mm-hmm. That's invaluable.
Right. It's like you identified your tribe.
Exactly.
Yeah. Having that tribe of people around you.
Yeah.
With a like mindset. Yeah. Is very, very, very hard to find.
It's very hard to find, and it shifts. Right.
It does. So you've got to your mindset shifts.
And right. So you're changing and you're growing, and then your tribe is shifting. And so it's important to like reevaluate every once in a while and just be aware of like, hey, what's going on in my circle?
Yep.
What's the vibe? Are people tending to be more in kind of a victim mode, or are people more in creator mode, what are they doing? Are they succeeding? Are they kind of not doing anything, sitting around on the couch, and it's okay to have a mix of friends, but you definitely want to have that group around you that's helping you, rise up.
Yeah, you are the sum of the four closest people.
Exactly. Yeah. What is it, Jim Rohn or something?
I don't know who said it. But I don't know, but it's so true.
Yeah.
And so true. And I learned years ago, man, before I became an entrepreneur, when I was still active duty, I guess I had an entrepreneurial mind at that point, but I wasn't 100% there because I was still active duty.
Yeah.
I started a photography business, and I was doing photo shoots, videos, for products, people, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was doing this photo shoot at this, I would call it my dream home up in Encinitas.
Nice. Yeah.
Right. And the guy was a mortgage broker.
Okay.
And it's very rare that someone who is 7-8 figures is willing to associate with someone who is not at the same level.
Yeah.
But this guy kind of took me under his wing and was like, hey, this and this, this and this.
Yeah.
And what he taught me was, in this world, there's what we have 80s and 20s.
Yeah.
There's 80% of the population that associate with each other, and then there's the 20% that only associate with the 20%.
Yeah.
If you want to get to that 20%, not only do you have to have the right mindset, you have to meet one of them, and they have to bring you in.
Yeah.
Because it's not just what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
And then once you're in, you need to elevate quickly to that point. Otherwise, you're not going to be there very long. Because people that are successful, they don't want to associate with people who don't have a successful mindset.
Yeah.
And if you have a successful mindset, you will be successful.
Yeah.
Because you're going to drag them down.
Yeah.
Right. And I've had that in my life so many times where I associate with someone who I think has that mindset, that has that drive, that has that will, that why.
Yeah.
And then I come to find out, they want to be successful.
Yeah.
But they will not do what it takes to become successful.
Yeah.
And that's where I have to wash my hands with them and let them go.
Yeah.
Because there's people in this world that want everything put on that platter and say, hey, here you go, you're successful now.
Yeah.
Instead of putting in that work that sucks.
Yeah.
Like going to Ranger School, like going to Buds, like going to selection.
Yeah.
Everybody can say, hey, I want to be an operator.
Yeah.
But if they don't go through the process and complete it, then they're never going to be that operator.
Right.
And I kind of look at the military and business as the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's no selection, there's no Buds, there's no Ranger School. But guess what? It's the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do what, those 10 other people in your same field are doing, then you're not going to make it. You need to do those 10 things that they're doing and the 10 other things that they're not doing.
Yeah.
And I learned that really, really early.
Yeah.
Just by watching people in the business and going, okay, this person's doing that. How do I do this?
Yeah.
Right. And then I would ask them, how do I do this? And most of them wouldn't tell me.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, man. When I first got into real estate, dude, one guy was, sitting in his cubicle making calls, and I was just listening.
Yeah.
And I'm brand new.
Yeah.
Haven't done nothing yet except for my own first deal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where do you get phone numbers from? How do you call so many people? He was like, oh, you get a dialer. Oh, talk to title. I was like, who's title?
Yeah.
They'll tell you where to get it. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you do this? Oh, we don't tell nobody how to do that. That's not on our team. All right. Okay.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out, and now at this phase of my career, if someone, is in real estate and they're on their own, right? They don't have a team. They're just out there and they ask for help, I gladly give it.
Yeah.
Hey, these are the few things that you need to do every day of every week until you have a pipeline of business.
Yeah.
And okay, great. And now I see them closing deals.
Nice.
Right. And one gal, I brought her in for some coaching, and it was to start my real estate coaching.
Yeah.
And I wasn't charging anything because I wanted the testimonials.
Right.
Right. And she was too far in to not doing business to where she had to go get a different job.
Okay. Yeah.
She just messaged me the other day. Said, I finally took your advice. I left my boutique brokerage for another brokerage. I've closed 2 deals in the last month.
Nice.
And I've got a couple more that I'm working on. I just wanted to say thank you.
That's awesome.
And I was like, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So now I kind of know what you feel like.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you coach people and they finally do what you tell them to do.
Yeah.
Because that's the biggest problem with coaching, I think, is the person being coached won't do what the coach is. So what is, in your experience with that, how is it that you can go from sitting outside of somebody's roadblock, problem, obstacle, whatever it is, figure out a solution, give them said solution, and have them run the other way? How do you handle that as a coach?
What do you mean have them run the other way? Like not
they
do
just
it?
won't do it. Like it's scary, and they won't take that step.
Yeah. Well, that actually doesn't happen a lot in my coaching.
That's good.
Cool. Yeah, because there's something that I do that not a lot of coaches do, and that is practice. Right? I guide practice for transformation for my players. right? So, yeah, everybody's got fears. Everybody's got resistance. I mean, I have it. You have it, right? Like, everybody's got it. The key is, like, changing your relationship with that resistance, right? And the way that you do that is through practice, right? So, if we're stuck, it's because of some future fear or something happening, right, that doesn't feel good. And so then we have this built-in mechanism in us called self-preservation, which a lot of people call self-sabotage. I don't like the language of self-sabotage. I think it sets up this, like, enemy within dynamic, and that's not as helpful.
It's a negative connotation.
Exactly.
Right.
So when we can spin that, though, and put it in terms of self-preservation, which is, okay, yeah, there's a part of you in your subconscious that wants to keep you safe. Doesn't want you to experience that embarrassment, disappointment, whatever that you felt when you were 5 years old and got up in front of the room. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a part of you that wants to keep you safe and not feeling things that don't feel good. And that's great, right? It's great that we have that. However, that's in direct tension with us living our big dreams, getting out there, playing bigger, trying new things, right? Facing failure, facing disappointment. But we have the technology in coaching now to be able to practice those situations in the session.
Okay.
Right? So we identify whatever it is that you want to do. Once we're clear on, like, okay, here's the dream vision, right? Okay, it's going to require you to get out and make cold calls, let's say, right? Real estate, sales, all that. I coach a few people in sales, and it's always cold calls, right? I don't want to make a phone call. Okay, great. Let's practice that right here, right? And so we'll literally practice a cold call. Like,
so you're role playing?
Yeah, we'll do role play, we'll do visualization. It's not always role play, but role play is one of the most powerful coaching tools that exists, and a lot of coaches don't use it, and it's a shame.
That's wild to me.
Yeah.
Because I coach real estate agents, and I teach them, we practice.
Yeah, this happens in real estate and in sales more often than in other areas, but yeah, so we'll practice this situation and identify, like, oh, what happened right there? Right, you can tell when you're really in tune with somebody and they're tripping over their words. We go, okay, time out. What happened there? And then we have other tools to go deep into the subconscious, right? I mean, it's really, we're getting into, like, NLP and hypnosis and stuff like that. I don't officially talk about it like that because I'm not officially trained, but I have these techniques it's the same technology, right? We're getting into the subconscious. You're in a safe space. You're open. You're willing to explore, and we look at, like, okay, what's happening there? What's coming up? Right? And we have a series of techniques that we can use to get to the bottom of what's happening there. And they go, oh, okay, it doesn't feel safe to whatever, XYZ.
Okay.
Usually comes down to some kind of I'm not enough, or I'm too much maybe, or some kind of core pattern like that that's been running the show without your awareness, probably your whole life. And once we get to that clarity, then we can start to engineer, right? In my past life, I was an engineer, so I love this human, human engineering process type stuff. And we can get in there and tweak things so that it's aligned with who you want to become, right? So now you go, okay, no, I actually want to show up like this. And while we have self-preservation superpowers, we also have self-confidence superpowers, right? So we're equipped with both. But oftentimes self-preservation runs the show just because it's on autopilot. It's been doing it for so long. It's just stronger, right? So when we're shifting into our dream, we're becoming that next version of ourselves, right? We're upgrading our mindset. We're upgrading our strategies. We're upgrading our energy, and we're upgrading our skills. So whatever it is that you want to do, it's hard because you don't have the skills that you need, right? Or the level of skill that you need to get to the next milestone. So in this session, we unpack, okay, what's that thing holding you back? Where's the self-preservation coming in? Great. Now let's shift gears. What superpowers do you need? What skills do you need? And then we'll practice using those. And we'll set up a scenario with visualization or role play where you see yourself doing that, right? And then in visualization in these tools that we have, your mind and body can't tell the difference. Right, when we do it right, they can't tell the difference between real life and your imagination. And so in your imagination, we can set up this scenario where you see yourself making that cold call. You see it going well. You see yourself making the sale. You see yourself approaching the beautiful woman, whatever it is that you're working on, right? You see yourself doing it and you feel it in your body. This is how we make change, right? You got to see it and you got to feel it. And once you can see it and feel it, your body goes, okay, I'm on board with that. Now you go out into the real world and it's like, the easy button,
Gotcha.
right? And when you do that over and over again every week, I mean, rapid transformation occurs.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. What made you want to be a coach?
Good question. I hit a point of burnout in my life when I was about 39 years old. I'd gotten out of the military, had been out for a few years. I was really kind of just running from my own stuff, my own demons, and my go-to mode of taking care of myself was achievement, right? I was definitely a workaholic. I was an overachiever, control addict. And so in running, I mean, I accomplished a lot, right? I got my MBA from Cornell. I was raising a family with my wife. We had 3 young kids at one point. I was working full time. I was crushing it as an engineer, going to school. But I was really running, and I was also living my life based off external expectations, right? Like what would look good on paper so that people approve of me, and am I doing what they say I'm supposed to be doing, right? That nebulous day. And, I achieved a lot, but ultimately it was mostly empty, So I reached a point where now I had my MBA, I was working as a manager, kind of just starting to work my way up the ladder, and I was miserable, right? And a friend of mine woke me up to that. I wasn't even aware. I was completely oblivious that my life was kind of falling apart around me. And he asked me, you want to stay married? And it was like, what? Right? It was like just the record stopped, and I started sobbing right in his living room, man, because it was like the truth of that question hit me. Like
it was a no then.
It was it was a yes at the time, and ultimately a few years later we did separate. But it was a yes, and I realized that if I kept going the way that I was going,
it was gonna be
Gotcha. Out of my hands. Anyway, so that was when I really decided to turn my life around, and I made the decision that yes, I want to stay married, and what does that mean? And I did the calculus, and it was like, I need to start living an intentional life.
I hate calculus.
I actually love it. I said this to a Ranger buddy of mine once. I said, math is beautiful.
I'm gonna send you all my calculus homework.
He almost slapped me. but it is beautiful. I mean,
I'm taking it right now to get my business degree and my MBA.
Oh man, I'm happy to help you out.
I hate it.
Man, I love it. It's so beautiful. You can take numbers and describe life. Like you can not only describe shapes, but you can describe life. Like at some point, mathematics and like physics and spirituality intersect, and that's at the quantum level.
I 100% get that. And I think I do calculus a different way.
Yeah.
Because what I've been seeing they're like, oh, let's simplify it down to this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And I was like, in real life, like these equations don't even happen. Like they're like you need to know calculus so you can look at what your business spends money on. I was like, but that doesn't look like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, dude, man, just going back on what you were talking about going through life, being on the grind.
Yeah.
Getting asked that question.
Yeah.
Do you want to stay married?
Yeah.
I have a very similar situation that happened to me.
Yeah.
Like I was grinding. And, I had reached a level of success that I never thought I would reach, and I didn't feel like it was enough, right? Like I needed more, and I needed more, and I needed more. And, making mid to high 6 figures wasn't enough for me.
Yep.
And I was just blowing it as soon as it came in.
Yep.
Right? And I sacrificed time with my kids, time with my now ex-wife, and everything. And it really made me realize that I was unhappy in the marriage I was in because I didn't look forward to coming home to see her. I looked forward to seeing the kids, but I could care less about what she was doing that day. And it took me a few years, and then finally I had made the decision that my happiness meant more to me than staying in a place where I didn't feel like I belonged.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I had to leave that situation. And it was hard, you know, at the time, because you're so comfortable where you're at.
Yeah.
And it took a lot to just be like, you know what, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, I think, I know I'm definitely better off now, you know, mentally, emotionally, and everything, because I'm not in that situation anymore. I don't know about her. I don't speak to her like that. You know, I have no idea. But it was something that I needed to do to be better. Yeah. And I had to realize that I needed a much better work-life balance. Yeah. Because, you know, making a ton of money is great. Yeah. But not spending time with people that you love is not worth all the money in the world. Yeah. You know, I had to realize, you know, if I had to put a dollar number, like on $1 per hour, you know, I had to make that dollar amount high enough to where I wouldn't just run off and go do business for something that really wasn't worth it. Yeah. You know, because so many people are like, oh, I know my worth, I know my worth. Okay. Yeah. Well, what's your worth? Yeah. Well, a lot. Yeah. Right? Like, okay. Yeah. You know, and I'm like, well, what's your worth? What do you get paid at work? Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I get $32 an hour. So your worth is $32 an hour. Yeah. That's how much you're worth. Yeah. And they're like, it doesn't sound like very much. Yeah. You know, like, I don't leave the house unless it's $1,000 an hour. Yeah. And they're like, what? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. Like, for $70 an hour, I'd rather be home with my kids. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And play Nerf guns. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Make them something to eat, hang out, watch a movie. Right. You know, I'd rather spend $70 to be home with my kids. Yeah. Than that. So yeah, it has to be worth it. Yeah, it does. And they're like, you don't think $1,000 an hour is insane, crazy? I was like, no, not at all. Yeah. Because it's taking time away from the people that I love. That's right. You know? Yeah. And so it's my recommendation to everybody out there that's getting into business that you figure out what your worth is by the dollar per hour that you want to be worth. Yeah. Because that job that you have, that 9 to 5, even the military, you know, if you break down the dollar per hour that they're giving you, you're not getting squat. And, you know, the military is notorious for this. You're deploying. Right. Right? Oh, yeah, you know, you get hazardous duty pay, you get jump pay, you get, you know, all these different pays. Yeah. You know, in the Navy, you get sea pay and, you know, flight deck pay and everything else. But at what cost? Right. Exactly. Right? You know, like my oldest man, I barely saw him as a kid. Yeah. I didn't build a real relationship with my 24-year-old till he was 18 years old. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And it's because I was always gone. Yeah. You know, and that was brutal. And I will not do that to the little ones. Yeah. You know, so yeah, the military is a great stepping stone, for sure. It is, yeah. Totally. You know, and it'll get your mind right. But is spending 20 years away from your family worth, what is it, $4,000 a month in retirement? Yeah. No, sorry. That's disability. Yeah. Retirement's like $2,000. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. $2,000. I can assure you it's not. You know, and then, you know, you get your disability. I mean, cool. You know, you get passive income for the rest of your life. Cool. Yeah. But is it worth your family? Right. You know, and that's why I think the divorce rate in the military is so high. Yeah. You know, and I think the military really needs people like you to come in and coach these, you know, enlisted and officers, you know, about how to set goals, how to achieve them, you know, how to create a work-life balance. Yeah. You know, because one of the issues I saw a lot of the time, man, especially with the higher-ups, they didn't want to go home. Right. Oh, yeah. You know, they didn't want to go see that wife and family. Yeah. They hated them. And it was like, well, then why are you still with them? Yeah. It's cheaper to keep her. Yeah. So, I know there's so much wisdom in what you're sharing there. You know, the what's your time worth, right? So valuable. And, you know, I mean, time is our most valuable resource. I said, bro. Did you see my podcast about this? No, I don't. Oh, I was on Kevin Feely's podcast, Thinking Bigger with Kevin Feely. Yeah. And I was talking about this. I don't know where I heard it. Yeah. I cannot remember. But I'll say it again. But time is our most expensive currency. Yeah. Because we never know how much we have. Right. You can never make more of it, and you're never going to know when you're going to run out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And
That's it.
Yeah, and so I would also add like physical health into that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But obviously, I mean it's directly related to time,
Right?
Because the time is like, how much time do you have being healthy, being productive,
Mm-hmm.
being mentally sound, all of that stuff. And like you said, yeah, you just don't know, right?
You don't know.
And that's why like I get super excited. I get amped up about this stuff, right? Because it's like
Plane
if you're
can crash on this building in the next 30 seconds, and our time is up.
that's it. It's done.
So did we do what we needed to do in the
Yeah.
time frame that we were given?
Right.
Or
Or did we not do something because we were afraid
Right.
of, what was that going to do to the people around us, or disappoint, or
Dude,
failure?
that's the coach in you, man.
And that's it,
Yeah.
right? But it is, and that's something that's been ever since I was a kid. I just couldn't understand why people were in a situation they didn't want to be in.
Yeah.
It's like, well, change it. Whether it's a relationship or where you live, or anything. It's like, do something different.
Yeah, it's the victim role, man. It's that victim mentality.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm here because I deserve to be here. No, you don't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Change that.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
And I hear people a lot talk about broke mentality. Right.
Yeah.
I don't think broke mentality really. I mean, some people. I don't know. I don't know what their take on this, but for me, being in the seat that I sit in, broke mentality isn't a dollar figure.
Yeah.
It's how your mind works.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
If you live your life as if you were broke, you will stay broke.
Yeah.
If you live your life with a goal and success in mind, you will eventually be successful.
Yeah.
There is nothing in this country that someone will say, you're going to be poor.
Right. Yeah.
Change it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
And one of the craziest things that you can look at is, professional sports stars.
Yeah.
Right? There's always that guy. Like, for instance, I'll mention him, Josh Jacobs. Right? He was on the Raiders. That's my squad, for all y'all that want to hate on it. And they let him go. I'm so mad about that. But he was growing up with a single dad and his siblings, and they were living in a car.
Yeah.
Right? And when he got to college, and he went to go sleep on the floor because the bed was too soft. He wasn't used to it.
Yeah.
Right? And now he's making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that as a little boy, that guy was like, I'm just going to be poor the rest of my life.
Right.
No, that guy was like, I'm going to play football.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take care of my family.
Yep. Yep.
Right? His mindset changed everything.
Right.
Now, we all may not be great running backs, linebackers, NFL players, but if you're good at something or you have passion in something, you can totally take that passion and turn it into a career,
100%.
Just like you have, Nick.
Yep.
Helping people is amazing, and you've made a profitable business off of helping people.
Yeah.
And there is nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
People are they get so upset, oh, well, he's just taking your money and this and that, or, real estate agents, car salesman, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right? You don't complain when you go see a doctor.
Yeah.
Right? That doctor just charged you $20,000 to your insurance. You paid a copay of $50.
Right.
He got paid $20,000 to tell you that you had a cold.
Right.
And you ain't mad at that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
People have these preconditioned thoughts and annotations on what career paths deserve to make money.
Right.
Right. Oh, the lawyers that make $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour.
Yeah.
That's because you're willing to pay it.
Right.
If you weren't willing to pay it, they couldn't charge that much.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That's the great thing about capitalism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We get paid what we're worth, and we designate that worth by our skill set.
Yep.
And, people like you can enhance that skill set for others. So you should get paid handsomely for it.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I help you unlock what's already inside you and what's possible for you. And I mean, that's worth way more than I charge.
Yeah. Because
to live your dream.
If you, I'm just gonna use made up numbers because I don't know his rates.
Yeah.
Let's just say you charge $250 for an hour phone call.
Yeah.
Right. And in that 1 hour phone call that I talk to you, I'm able to get past a roadblock.
Yeah.
Find a client and get a deal done, and I make 10 to 15 grand on that deal.
Yeah.
Was that deal worth $250?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
On
100%.
a different route, not sales, if I am afraid to leave my job and apply for another job that's going to pay 20, 30 grand more a year, and I'm scared to do it, but I have that $250 phone call with you, and I'm able to get past that in my mind and go get that job, is making 20, 30 grand a year extra worth that $250? Yes, 100%.
Absolutely, yeah.
People don't understand the value of coaching.
Yeah. No, they don't. And everybody thinks they understand what coaching is,
No.
And there's a million different coaches out there.
And you know
so
why?
I get it.
It's because they've never had one.
Yeah, that's probably true.
They've never had one. I was paying $1,000 a month for a coach.
Yep. I pay pretty close to that myself.
And then when I had my real estate team, I paid for all my team to have a sales coach and a lifestyle coach.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
So they were getting calls twice a week from the real estate sales and then life coaching. Like, oh, what's going on? You stressed out? What's happening? Da, 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 da. Get through these breakthroughs, and all that, because I got tired of being a counselor.
Right.
It was just like, look, man,
that's a great plan, man.
This is taking up too much of my time. I'm supposed to be making you sell houses. But if you can't sell houses because of boyfriend-girlfriend problems, guess what? Their sales went up.
Oh yeah,
because they weren't dealing with the stress.
Because it's all connected, man.
Yeah.
So, you use the term work-life balance, right? And I like to say life balance.
Yeah.
Work's a part of life, right? Whatever we do to generate income, right? I like to call work play because that's just my own experience, right? But it's life balance, right? And all the things in your life got to be aligned to whatever it is you want to create, whatever that dream vision is you have for your life. If it's not, it's going to be draining energy. It's going to be distracting. It's going to be right. So you're going to be performing at much lower levels than you could be. It's like driving a car that needs new tires, and it needs wheel balancing, and it needs to have whatever injectors clean and stuff like that. You're just limping it along, and it's like it gets me there, right? Yeah, but the thing's going to blow up, and and it's going slower, and it's costing you more gas.
Or the engine could seize, you could get a car accident right then and there.
Exactly. So exactly. Maybe your windshield's cracked, right? You're just like, it's okay. No, it's not, right? Where you want to have a car that's operating smoothly, that drives nice, that gets you where you want to go, but also so life's like that, right? And if your life situations are all kind of out of whack, then you're not going to be performing at the level that you could be and experiencing the level of joy and fulfillment and all of that you could be too,
and it's funny that you say that, the word joy, right? So many people think that happiness is an external thing.
Oh yeah, man.
Right? Joy comes from within.
Yep.
If you don't have your own joy, if you don't create it, you'll never find it. No one else can make you happy. Achieving something's not going to make you happy.
Nope.
You have to find it within yourself to be happy. And then you can, influence others to help be happy as well. But it starts with you. I love that word joy, man, because so many people, every night when I took my kids into sleep, we do a prayer with my kids, and every night I ask God to remove all negativity from the house and from our minds and our hearts, and to fill us with joy in the Holy Spirit, right? And the kids, I've seen a night and day difference between like they ask me, Dad, can you pray? Dad, I know you did the prayer already, but can you pray for me again? Like, yeah, baby, I'll pray for you again.
That's awesome.
And they're like, is God really going to do this for me? Maybe. Oh, it's all in God's time. We can ask for everything. But if you're not supposed to have that, then He's not going to give it to you, because that might actually, what you want may actually do more harm than good. It's crazy, man, but I love it, man. I love the word joy.
That's great. And you're teaching them acceptance and surrender. And appreciate whatever's happening.
We do a thing called Terrific. We call it Terrific. We do positive affirmations with the kids. And, I don't know if someone else on their mom's side has influenced them to not want to have it on the phone. But we'll ask them, hey, you want to do Terrific tonight? And more often than not, they'll be like, we tell them, hey, you are terrific, you are strong, you are brave, you are smart, you are kind. We go through all these things. And you should just see them smile.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, when they go to school, you know, I tell them, hey, you are respectful, you are, you know, smart, you are, you know, so positive affirmations in kids, huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
So let me get back to a couple of things real quick.
Yeah.
Because I know we started just going off on a tangent.
It's been known to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you're vibing.
Yeah.
You know, what is something that you would tell an active duty member or veteran that was looking to get out or is already out and wants to start a business? What is the first piece of advice that you would give them?
I mean, the first thing is get clear on what you would want to do. Like, just let go of all like mental limitations about how it's going to get done, or that doesn't seem reasonable, or what are people going to think. Just get really clear on what you would love to do. That's step one, right? Okay. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, right? One is give me a call, right? I'd love to have a conversation with any active or veterans. I love talking about dreams. I love talking about passions. So yeah, find somebody like me, you know, someone who can support you, and just kind of create that space, because a lot of times it's hard to do that. I don't know, how do I, you know, is this meditation? Am I, you know, whatever. But however it works for you, like, take some time and really get clear on what would be awesome to do, right? It all starts with that vision. And then there's a lot of steps from there, but that's step one.
100%.
Yeah.
So once they have the vision, right, and the idea, what's the next thing they should do?
Well, the next step is probably involving someone else, right? Okay. So there's tons of different resources out there. This is sort of my path too. This is why I'm talking about it. It's worked for me. Was once I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, then like find a workshop, you know, find a coach. Most coaches will offer some kind of exploratory session, so you could literally just call up the next coach, like, hey, I want to do exploratory, you know, and through that process, you'll get clear, because you'll start saying it, you know, you'll start hearing the words coming out of your mouth, and you'll start feeling it. Does that feel true? You know, and then you know, these coaches will be asking you hopefully really powerful questions that'll help clarify. And start coming up with a plan. Like, okay, what would that look like if I were to do this, right? And again, you're still in like non-judgmental phase, right? Just like, if anything were possible, right, what would it look like? What would I have to do? And continuing to feel in, like, does this feel aligned? Does this feel good? Am I still excited about this, right? One of the most important things you can do is just keep checking in. This is in any process, right, of life, is like, keep checking in. Am I excited about this? Right? Where's the energy? Come up with that plan, and then start telling people about it. Right. So once you have clear, like, okay, I think this is what I want to do. This would be really fun. This lights me up, this idea. Here's how I think it might work. And again, pulling in some other resources to bounce ideas off. Now go tell like 3 people that are close to you, right? Hey, I'm thinking about doing this, and here's some of the details, right? And see what you get for feedback, right? And that's going to be very telling. You know, if you get like, oh yeah, I totally see you doing that, you know, like, yeah, that makes sense. That's great. Yeah. That's going to be really telling, versus, you know, maybe someone's going to be pushing back, or like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Now, I'm not saying you should listen to that, right? Because if it's something you want to do, you can do it. And maybe you're now just finding out who's going to support you and who's not. But those are the first couple steps that I would take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. What resources would they go find a coach? How would they find that coach, or how would they find that mentor? How would they do that?
I mean, you can literally just Google life coaches in your area, see what comes up. You can go to my website, sign up for a exploratory call, right? I do like a 15-20 minute, just kind of, let's get to know each other and get to know your dream. And again, most coaches will do that. There's companies out there that have, you know, coaches on retainer. So there's a lot of different resources. Okay. I would prefer that, you know, if you're resonating with this podcast, that you call me.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Dude, man, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I highly recommend everybody have a coach in whatever industry you're in. A mentor or coach will change the game. It will take you from mediocre to excellence way faster than you stumbling along a path, trying to get it done on your own, making the mistakes that they could prevent you from making by already leading you through what they've already been through. Coaching is essential. Like, that's why you look at professional sports teams. They have a bunch of different coaches. You know, for instance, football, you have the head coach, you have assistant head coach, you have offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, defensive back coach, linebacker coach, D-line coach, running back coach, wide receiver coach, tight end coach. Like, there is a coach to specialize in everything. So I'm not saying go out and get you 35 coaches to, you know, be good at life, but what I am saying that you should definitely, you know, look at getting into some kind of coaching program, whether it be group coaching, which will save you some money, I believe, or individual coaching, at least to get, you know, your feet wet and figure out what path that you want to be on as, you know, a veteran entrepreneur. That's the biggest thing that I can say is, you know, without having a mentor or a coach, or both, you're going to be way behind compared to the ones that are leading your industry, whatever industry that is. I mean, would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, a coach is a secret weapon.
Yeah.
It really is a secret weapon. You want to move fast, you want to really create what you want to create next, like fast and do it well. And like you said, you know, skip a lot of the mistakes that a lot of people make, get a coach. Get a coach. You know, I'm an artist of transformation. That's what I am, right? So, like, if you're at a point where, you know, you're making a big change, you know, a lot of, if you're getting out of the military, huge transition, right? Or maybe you're transitioning out of a relationship, or, you know, you got a big dream, you want to start a business, or you want to switch careers, or whatever it is. Anytime that you're changing something big in your life and really going for it, you're going to need to change your mindset. You're going to need to upgrade your skill set. You need to come up with a strategy. You know, you're going to need to become aware of your energy and where that's at. And those are all the things that I'm an expert at guiding people through, right? So,
nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it's huge, right? I mean, so many people get stuck where they want to do the thing, but they're just like, I can't do it, right? There's just something keeping them stuck, and it's a shame, right? Because I think that each one of us has something amazing to create in the world, right? I really do think that we each have this, you know, this song or this work of art or this business or this, you know, way of being in the world that's meant to come out, it's meant to fully flourish, and you know, the idea that people are just sitting there day after day, year after year, stuck in the same grind, you know, out of a fear or just not knowing what to do or not having the skills to do it, that really bums me out, man.
I think a lot of it, man, you know, I think a lot of the military has infused in us to not give up, to persevere, be persistent, determined, you know, fight through the suck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that is one of the things that sets us apart as veterans.
Yeah.
But I also think one of the things that holds back a lot of veterans is that military structure of where they're being told what to do on a constant day-to-day basis.
1000%.
You know, and without that leadership above them, they get lost. Right? So they have to learn to be the leader. You know, and I think that was, for me, it was pretty easy to transition because I led a division of 41 people. So I was leading people every day. So it was different for me, but I know a lot of folks.
It's still different leading yourself.
It is. Right? It is 100%.
There's just things that we don't see, right? We need someone else to go like, hey, this is happening.
And that's why surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded, right, is key, even if they're in a different industry. Because they can look at you and go, dude, why'd you do that? You know, what do you mean? Like, you were just hanging out having lunch or something, talking about business. But hey, by the way, man, I saw that you did this on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and you did this, and this. Well, why'd you do it that way? Why did you not do this instead? And that could set that bell off and make you go, oh, crap. Surrounding yourself with people who see your greatness, who want your greatness for you, and who are going to challenge you and support you. That's the key. And that's ultimately what a coach is, right? It's a profound relationship where, like, I mean, there's not many relationships like this in life where you can be totally yourself, you know, come as you are that day, and that coach is going to support you, they're going to see you, they're going to keep pushing you towards the direction of your dreams, right? So if you're having a hard day and you need some support, great, we got some support, but it's like, okay, but what do you want? Remember? Keep going. Like, you know, I had that when I went through my divorce, man, that saved my life. It literally saved my life.
I had suicidal ideation going on. I was practicing, right? That's one of the things the military taught me, right? Crawl, walk, run. I mean, I put a empty pistol in my mouth to make sure I knew what it felt like, you know, so that wouldn't be any hang up the day of. And there were two things that saved my life. One was judgment-free awareness, surrounding people that supported me, right? I had a woman who I talked to, and I told her what I was thinking of doing, and she was like, great, I won't love you any less. And I was like, what'd you say? Right? It's like, in that moment, I was like, wow, this person loves me, supports me, celebrates me no matter what I decide to do. Even if I decide to take my own life, all right, maybe I'll stick around a little bit longer, right? And then the other thing was I had a coach who just kept pushing me, saying, what do you want, right? And this is in the moment. This is during a time when I'm like, I think I'm just going to check out. You know, I don't know what I want. I'm so like messed up in the head, right, from everything that's going on. And I got pissed with him. I was like, what do you keep asking me that, you know? And he's like, well, what do you want?
And you haven't answered the question.
Exactly, right? So I finally answered. I'm like, well, I want to, you know, live my life like an adventure, become an amazing life coach. I want to go do this. He goes, then do it.
Right.
I was like, oh, right. And those two things.
Pulling that trigger is going to stop you.
Right.
So
recognizing that I was that choice.
Yeah.
Right. I had a choice, and I was loved no matter what. Right. That was the ultimate combo that I went like, all right, screw it. I'm just going to go for it. Mm-hmm. You know.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
So,
I'm so glad that you were able to get through that barrier, because most people that commit suicide, and this is for the 22 every day that are out there, you know what I mean? Like, my eyes are watering up right now just knowing that my brothers and sisters are taking their own lives. Mm-hmm. The fact that you were able to have that contemplation of ending it all, and were able to push through and become what you are today, it just shows your resilience as a human being. But most people that want to commit suicide, it isn't because they don't want happiness.
Right.
It's because they feel pain.
Yeah.
Right? And the only way to get rid of pain is to basically, you know, learn or be taught how to get over something, recognize it, accept it as part of life, and then continue on. Yeah. You know, I've dealt with a lot of pain in my life, man. Yeah. And, you know, I'm not going to get into that because we'll be here for another, you're going to start charging me. You know, but it's once you come to acceptance that that's how things are. Yeah. You know, regardless of what you would have done differently. Yeah, that's right. You would have ended up at this point somehow, some way. Yeah. And then accept that, and then how do I get better from this? Yeah. Where can I get the help to become a better man, a better woman, you know, to be better than what I am today, so that I can, you know, step over this hurdle. Yeah. You know, and I hate seeing it, man. I hate seeing people, you know, have the pain and not accept the situation, and that's where they go and end it. Yep. You know, no one does it for fun. Yeah, no. You know, you nailed it, man. It's about acceptance. Like, okay, we're here. Yeah, we're here now. And where do we go from here? Right. That's the question. That is the question. And the people that end it don't know where to go. Yeah. That's right. No one's giving them a line. No one's reaching out, doing a buddy check. You know what I mean? Like, I see the posts on Facebook, man, and none of that shit matters. I call people, dude. Yeah. You know, hey, bro, I ain't talked to you in a few months, dude. I know you moved out to the middle of bumfuck Egypt. Yeah. You know, and you're living out there by yourself, working a job that you hate. Yeah. How you doing? Yeah. You know, are you okay? Yeah, human connection, man. Real human connection. That's another whole episode we'll get into. I'm so passionate about human connection. It's one of the things I coach around, actually, is human connection skills, right? But it's becoming one of the most valuable currencies that we have, especially in this day and age, right, where everything's a bot and everything's AI. Man. It's like human connection. Don't get me started on bots, man. I started screenshotting bot posts on the internet because I see the same posts from different people. Oh, yeah. The same exact post. Interesting. Word for word. Wow. On different stuff. Yeah. And it's like they got to be hacked. Yeah. You know, they're bots. There's no way. Yeah. And it's just to rile people up. Yeah. And I'm watching it, man. Yeah. I'm like, you know, the political atmosphere right now is very tense. Yeah. With all the changes that are happening. Yeah. But people are purposely riling each other up. Yeah. you know, and that's not a good thing.
It's not good.
You know, so, I mean, we're not going to get into politics on this one, but it's just, it's crazy that I see people purposely trying to upset other people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's just like,
it's not helpful.
Like, what are you doing, man? Shut up.
Right.
Sit down.
Yeah. Exactly.
Go to your job.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, get off the internet. You know, like, God.
Yeah.
He needs a coach.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to start tagging you.
Refocus that
like,
energy.
Hey, you need a coach. You need a coach. You need a coach. You know?
Love it.
But that's wild, man. Well, dude.
Yeah.
This has been awesome, man.
Yes, I appreciate you.
It's been a great conversation, man. We got to do it again sometime, even if it's not on camera.
Yeah. Let's do it.
But no, like, you know, highly recommend to anybody out there. You know, I'm gonna put Nick's information below, and you guys can reach out to Nick. I'll tell you right now, really quick before we end. I went to one of his live webinars just because, right? I wanted to see what he was all about, and you know, we had already talked about doing the podcast, so I was already going to have him as guest, but I wanted to see his work in person. And he broke us into little groups, and I was in a group with a woman. I won't say her name for privacy reasons. I don't know if she wants her information out there or not. But she was in one type of business before. It was a creative media type, and she was getting into like healthcare stuff, and she didn't know how to transition from one career to the other while still paying her bills and taking care of her family, and she was stuck. And knowing Nick through mutual friends that she had, they had become friends, and you know, she had hired a coach for thousands and thousands of dollars and didn't get her anywhere. And the first thing that Nick told her was like, okay, how about this, let me earn it. You know, we'll do a session. If you like that, then we'll do another session. And if you like that, then we'll do another one. And then after that, you can hire me full time. He earned her business, which is more than I can say for 99% of the coaches out there. They will say, hey, I'm a guru in, you know, ATMs. I'm a guru in flipping cars and flipping houses, and, you know, I'll 10X your income and this and that. Pay me $10,000 up front and come to this online course. Nick doesn't do that. He's going to be that guy that's going to sit down with you, find an arrangement that works for you financially, mentally, and emotionally, and career-wise, and make that situation work. And I've seen his transformations of his clients firsthand by meeting them and talking to them. So even though I have not had his services myself, I have talked to many people that have, and they all have glowing reviews. So, you know, hit him up. Take that next step in your career, step out of the boots and into some, you know, casual business shoes or some tennis shoes. Start that business and move forward and get over those roadblocks. I'm Jay. Nick, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Jay.
And we'll talk to you next time.